Please welcome our next presenter, News MediaWorks CEO, Peter Miller.
Well, that was nice, wasn't it? You're all chilled. I'm about to bugger that up. So, look, I'm the CEO of News MediaWorks. We carry the torch for what I like to call proper newspaper and news website companies. They're companies that don't think that hiring fact-checkers is an innovation. We have thousands and thousands of journalists and people spending all their time trying to bring the facts to you and to everyone else in the community. It's a fun job. Part of the fun things of working in this role as the CEO of a peak organisation is I get to wander around and talk to the CEOs and CMOs of great advertising companies and to get the pulse, to find out what matters and what's important to them and to ensure that our messaging is on track and on target. I had the pleasure of running into John Stedman some time ago. I used to call on him in the 90s when media buying and media selling and media evaluation was really easy. And we sat there rather sheepishly reflecting on how easy our jobs were then. You know, you had TV and I was talking to Cam Carter about this earlier on. You had television and newspapers and magazines and a bit of outdoor and radio, and then you'd kind of get into a conversation about the deal, and miraculously this had all happened just in time for lunch. And of course, media choices have become incredibly complex now. And this has been driven by two things, both digital, but one is the sort of digital diversification on the one hand by news media companies as they transition to cross-channel offerings. And, you know, we represent an industry where 13.5 million people read a newspaper online, either on a handset or at the desktop, mostly on handsets. And 12.5 million people read a newspaper every month as a printed newspaper. The other kind of diversification that's going on very madly, very intensively, of course, is well known to you, which is the diversification into social media and digital media and all forms of alternatives to traditional news media. We've been witnessing change in our industry as you've been witnessing change in yours, but some things don't change, and that is that a dud ad in a tremendous media won't do much for you, and a terrifically powerful creative ad in a dud media won't do much for you either. What you're looking for is seriously good communications in seriously good media that people trust. Trust is a sort of a hot topic these days. We've done a study, been in the field twice now since last year. We interviewed 2,800 Australians on the topic of trust in September last year or June last year, and we went back into the market post-Cambridge Analytica. These numbers demonstrate that trust in content has been rising in traditional media, and I'll call out the fact that radio and news websites and television are also profiting from an increase in levels of trust in content. And at the same time, the run of the web, social media, people are losing faith because their rights to privacy have been traduced. Fake news is a problem. You all know this, but consumers know it too. And this number here for printed newspapers, which are enjoying a bit of a renaissance amongst advertisers at the moment, is a direct result of people actually recognising that newspapers are journals of record and they're news brands that exist online as well as in traditional printed formats. And you may have heard the other day that Fairfax and News have done a deal to collaborate around printing newspapers, which is improving the viability of what is a costly process of committing news to paper and reproducing it and wrapping them up and distributing things physically. So obviously the numbers on online and digital are much better in terms of ROI. We saw these numbers. They didn't surprise us. What also didn't surprise us that trust correlates exactly. There's a 96% correlation of trust in advertising to trust in content. So if you see advertising in a trusted environment, like you see, an Arnott's biscuit in the Woman's Weekly or a Porsche in the Financial Review, You trust the advertising, you trust the message. Again, it comes down to a journal of record. And so you see trust increasing in traditional media. We will call out newspapers because that's our bread and butter. That's what we do. That's what we're here. We're here to fight the corner for newspapers and news websites. But it's true that traditional media are also enjoying an upswing because contemporaneously there's a losing of a falling away in confidence and trust in brands and in advertising online as well as in the content online, in the long tail of the web and social media. But it's one thing to put data up. Let me introduce you to some of the people who said these things, and there was a tremendous spread. And the point, you can read this. You don't need me to read that. What I'll say is that that the younger people feel more confident in what's in a newspaper and a news website than even older people do. That's because they know they're being gamed. Thanks very much for giving me the opportunity.